Okay, so my name's Matt. I'm one of the trainers for CircleSoft. I'm also a bookseller myself, and I have been for the last 15 years. I'm just going to give you a quick run through of the CirclePOS bookstore inventory management system. Point out a few things that I use in my store, and just go through basically from start to finish what it can do. On the screen here, we've got our public-facing website. And Circle is a three-part system. So you have your public-facing e-commerce site. You also have your back office where you do all of your store inventory management. We've also got our POS as well, which literally just handles point of sale. So everything here that we can see on the screen can be customized, works off a template. It's very straightforward. The idea is that once it's up and running with the store, they can edit this, they can change things if they need to. Their categories can be changed on their main page. They can have obviously featured categories, featured products. They can list what categories they want their customers to see first, that sort of thing. You can do things like, obviously change your opening times, things like that. Also any pages that are listed across the top here, if you've got special information, book clubs, etc. You can certainly use that. I know I've used that in my stores as well. Where everything really gets done though is in the back office here. So the idea with this is that everything is cloud-based. It is pretty much on one screen. Staff within the store will be using this. That's where they're going to look up anything for a customer to check whether they've got it on the shelf. It's where they're going to create customer orders. It's also where they're going to receive goods. Anything at all with the inventory management is going to be done through the back office. So starting from the left-hand side here, we've got load stock. So one of the advantages with Circle is the stores that are using it are part of the Circle community. So while we don't share sales history or anything like that, we do share public metadata. So if a book's been loaded into the Circle community, it's able to pull that data very, very quickly, which is fantastic. If it cannot get it from the community, that's where it starts to go off to a few more databases where it can pull that public metadata from the publishers, and that's fantastic. But where it's also really helpful is non-book items. So a lot of the time those don't have a database that we can work from. So I sell a lot of art materials and books, games, all that sort of stuff. What I find with that is if I've gone and entered the metadata for one of my stores and I've gone to the trouble of finding images, descriptions, etc., the other store will benefit from that when they get that product as well. They won't be required to essentially double handle that stock. It will automatically pull from the community. And that works amongst everything. So sometimes I do find a product that another store, could be anywhere in the world, has already loaded that metadata in there, and I benefit from that. So that's something that's really nice with Circle. Bringing stock into your database is particularly easy. I'm just going to search for an ISBN here. Immediately it's gone and found that from the community data, which is nice. It's got the pricing. It's also found the image and description, which is obviously really important for e-commerce. You can go ahead and set a category here. You can do it later. You can bulk set categories, which is really helpful as well if you happen to be doing a whole bunch of kids' picture books or something in one hit, going through your new releases, etc. As soon as we hit add an order, that book is now within our database. All the data is there. We're not required to do anything else. Circle's particularly good at identifying, obviously, the publisher of that book. Therefore, we know who the agency is, and therefore we know who the distributor is. Now, most of the time you'll find that is pretty much set the way it should be. However, if you're a store that's getting your products through perhaps a third party, it's very easy to change that. It's just a matter of just setting and deciding that this particular publisher, you're going to get through someone else other than UBD in this situation. So really easy to set that information. Just on the screen here, like I mentioned before, everything is pretty much set to one page. The idea being that as soon as you look up an item, you can find out pretty much everything about it straight away. We've got our basic info here on the left-hand side, specs of the book, dimensions, weight, etc. All of that's publicly found from the publisher. Same with the image, that'll be pulled from the publisher as well. ISBN, obviously we're all familiar with those. Title, author, our pricing is all brought in. Categories are store specific, so you set them yourself depending on where you want it to live, not only in your store but also on your website. So the categories work in conjunction with each other, so you really only have to set categories once. The agency, publisher and distributor I mentioned just before. We've also got our ordering information, so I can see if I've got any of this particular book in my cart already to be sent off to a distributor. I can also see whether I've got any on order. It's helpful if you are looking something up for a customer. You can immediately say, I don't have it in stock, but I do have them on order. I can see if I do have any customer orders for this book. I can see some very, very basic sales history here. So this is 3 weeks, 2 weeks, the last 7 days, and all-time sales of this particular product. Now, you can obviously go in a lot further and see full movements of products. So you can go back and see which invoices they came in, if they were had their stock levels dropped manually for some reason, something damaged in the store or theft or something like that. You can see the sales and who they were sold to. Also, we can see here our on hand. We can see how many we've actually got in store. We have an approval function here. So if you're planning on giving stock to, say, a school or a daycare center for them to go through and decide whether they want to purchase it, that's built into the system. So you have the ability to automatically search for those items, send them straight out to the school. They're still your stock, but the stock levels will drop in your inventory. That means that no one can accidentally purchase those goods on your website. We can see if it's being held for a customer. Once again, if it is a customer order, you don't want someone seeing that is available on your website. So it will be held for the customer. We can also see our returns here. So that's nice if you're just looking up some basic information for a book, you want to see how it's traveling, and you can go, I'm actually returning a lot of these, or I'm not returning any, so perhaps I do need to up my ordering. Circle's got a fully inbuilt return system, which I will have a look at during this video as well. We can also do consignment. So there is a whole consignment functionality built into the system. You don't require to do anything extra for that. Just nice if you are taking stuff on consignment, you can clearly see it is a consignment product. We're able to generate draft consignment invoices too when those products do sell. So it's a way that you can make sure that the person you're taking consignments from is getting paid for them, and also you're keeping track of when payments were made. If I click this plus sign here, the history, this is where I can get, I guess, a step up in our sales history. So I can see, month to month, year to year, what are my purchases of this book, what's my sales, and what are my returns. I know as a manager, that's what I'm looking at a lot of the time. I don't feel the need to necessarily go in and see all the movements of the book. This is pretty much enough information for me to make a decision whether I want to up my ordering, lower my ordering of a particular book. It's nice and it's a handy way to do it, and you don't really have to go any further unless you really feel the need to. That's the most basic sort of adding things into our system. We've obviously got built-in management of ISBNs as well. This is where you can bulk move things around if you need to, move to category. You can do things like add secondary categories. This is particularly helpful, and I use this in my stores with award winners. So what I want them to do is I want them to be displayed on my website as they won the Booker Prize, and these are all the nominees, and I want them all listed up there. The shortlist is up there, but I still want those books in their appropriate categories as well. So you can have as many secondary categories as you need It's great for staff picks and things like that. Or if you're running book clubs from your store, you might have a rolling system where every month you just update those book club books as well. So really nice to do. You can obviously delete things and that sort of stuff, add things onto consignment from here. But yeah, you can easily manage everything within here. There's also built-in stock taking system as well. You know, most stores would be looking at probably doing stock takes, you know, hopefully every 12 months or so. It's completely built into the system. You don't require to do anything extra for that. And it is exactly what every stock take is. We're scanning every item within the store. So it's not something that has to be done in one hit. You can do it over the space of, you know, a week if that's how large your store was. The idea is Circle can keep track of what has sold within that time period and what has been received within that time period, and it will adjust those numbers as it sees fit. So it is a nice way to do it, and you know, you're not presented with a huge amount of data at the end. Circle really only identifies the books that are questioned. Why are those numbers off? Which is much better. You can obviously get a complete stock list of everything, but realistically, if you're doing a stock take, you're probably only concerned about the ones that are missing. Moving on to the next tab here, this is the movers system. So it's probably a little bit different than most bookshop inventory management systems. So what we're looking at is all of our sales between a particular time, everything that's sold. We're making a decision right then and there whether we would like to order those products again, but we're not sending off the order straight away. Everything gets added to a shopping cart. So once we've decided whether we want to order those products, they basically get moved to a shopping cart. We can simply go into that shopping cart and see the numbers that have been added. There's our customer orders. We can see that there's a customer order for someone in there. We can adjust those figures if we wanted to. We can remove things if we're second guessing it. It might be a situation where more than one person at a particular store is adding products to a cart. So it might go to, you know, the owner or the store manager to make the final decision. So they may go through and decide that those numbers are too large or too small and adjust them. If you're happy to do everything that's in here, you can simply check out selected. Circle has two ways of doing that. We obviously integrate with Packstream system, which is fantastic. If you don't use Packstream, that's no problem either. It will generate an email and directly send that off to the supplier, not really requiring you to do anything whatsoever. Being that this is a cloud-based system, you're not required to be in the store to do this. You can obviously log in from anywhere. I personally don't do a lot of ordering from behind the counter at the store. I would tend to do all of that away from the store, which makes it a bit easier. You're not being distracted as much. So we also have our currently on order. We can see what we've actually sent off to the suppliers. You know, do we need to chase any products that haven't come in? Have things taken too long? We can also see the movements there with our little truck symbols. Obviously, you can see, you know, what things have arrived, what are on their way, that sort of stuff. We can actually, you know, incorporate that in there with the system. You obviously see our Packstream order status there as well. So inwards goods, you've got a couple of ways you can obviously do this. There is the old-fashioned way where we are simply scanning every product that comes in, and that's actually what we do in my stores. It certainly works, there's no problem with that, and we will adjust our margins and things depending on what our invoice says. The other way that you can do it is obviously with the Packstream system, which is nice and quick, does all the work for you. So that's built into the system, doesn't require you to do anything extra for that. Obviously customer orders are something that we all do in our stores. There's obviously the complete built-in system to do that. Looking up a book, looking up a customer, and essentially deciding whether you're going to take a deposit or not. And that's pretty much it to place an order. Any customer orders you create will already be allocated to the correct cart, so you don't have to do anything from there. That way, as a manager, you're not really required to be in the store. You can simply log into your cart from anywhere and see that there's been a whole bunch of customer orders and decide to send it off straight away. We also have our web orders. Circle doesn't differentiate between, I guess, a customer standing at your counter and a customer using your website. They are one and the same. It's just, I guess, the payment methods are different, obviously. And, you know, you're notified as soon as a customer order comes in over your website, and, you know, you go in and basically pick the book off the shelf. There's a process for that. Really straightforward. Customer can be notified as soon as their book's either ready to be picked up, or when it's been shipped, you can notify them as well. We have built-in wish list system now. The wish lists are great. I use it a fair bit in my stores. Allows customers to put together a wish list on your website. Now, this may be that they simply want to put a wish list together. They want to keep track of what books they want. They can share that with people as well. It can be publicly shared. So it might just be something that they would like friends and family to purchase for them. However, they can opt to be notified if you're out of stock of something. So you can do that built in. You don't have to do anything special to that. You simply have to decide how you would prefer to do it, whether you do it via email or SMS. Like I said, I use that a lot in my store. The little feature we've got here is our promotions. So I have been using this as well. This essentially makes you generate a promotional code on your website, so you can decide whether to give a fixed price off something or a percentage off items. It's very straightforward. You would simply just put the barcodes in there, the ISBNs, if they're books, straight in there, decide what kind of a promotion you want to run and the time frame, and off you go. Really, really straightforward. And yeah, I've used it a fair bit with since it's been launched. There's a full accounts receivable and payable system built into Circle. With your accounts receivable, you can obviously keep track of anything you've invoiced to schools, daycare centres, etc. You can see what invoices are still remaining to be paid. Circle does integrate with Xero as well, and that's an integration that's been growing over the last 12 months. So there's always something new being added to that as well, and that also ties into your accounts payable as well. We can have groups, so you can have multiple stores within the one group. That ties into the accounts payable there with the groups as well. But you can also see what stock the other stores have, which is handy. You can see some very basic sales history for them as well too, which is nice if you are managing more than one store at once. Built-in gift card system. Gift cards obviously work not only in store, but they also work on your website. This has been really handy for us, especially a store that went through lockdowns like we did in Melbourne. We can essentially supply people with gift cards anywhere in the country, and they can certainly use them anywhere and get their goods shipped out to them, as long, as obviously customers coming into your store can do that as well. Reporting. Circle's got a very robust reporting features. Probably the go-to one I find a lot of stores are interested in is the monthly sales, and that's where you can really see how your store is tracking month to month, year to year. There's a really nice one here, which is community percentage there as well. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we have a Circle community and we don't share anything private nor any sales history. The community percentage is simply the growth and decrease of growth within the stores. So that's not something that's you can tie to anyone, but it is a nice little feature to see how your store is tracking compared to perhaps other stores amongst the Circle community. It's not something that you would probably make any huge rash decisions off, but it's nice to have that information there. But overall, the reporting features are pretty robust. Like I mentioned, you can see sales this week, you can go and see how many customers you had, etc. You can also go all the way down to sales by hour. This is nice from a manager's point of view. If you are deciding to put extra staff on for extra shifts, you may have a look at that and decide that, we don't need them in the morning, but we're really busy in the afternoons. You can also, if you're considering adjusting your opening hours, you can certainly pay attention to that as well. Category and stock, pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You can start to see which category is selling for you and which is not. You can also get some more in-depth information there with the stock on hand one. You can also do age stock reports, which is nice to see what's been sitting on your shelf for periods of time and not selling. It might be that you have to up your returns process, or it could simply be that you need to discount some stock, or things are going great and you don't have anything that's sitting there for too long. We can also see our customers as well, see who's our top customer over a period of time. We can also tie in the lost customers. So the lost customers one is nice because you may have people that, were buying a fair bit from you but have stopped. You have the ability here, if you've got their email addresses, you can simply generate their email addresses here, and it may be time to send them off a, remind you that we are here email, so that perhaps they come back into store or use your website again. You can also do things like customers via category preference, where you start to, have a look at who's been buying, particular items from you. It's nice if you run the type of store where perhaps you buy bulk, so you might buy a huge quantity of children's books, and you want to target everybody that buys children's books from you, but not anybody else. So it's a nice way that you can sort of get into the micro marketing stuff if that's something that stores are interested in. The other one that I'll point out here is the bestsellers. Everybody loves this report. You can set your time, you can change category if you have to. You can even go so far as to set the agency if you wanted to see how a particular agency was going. But the bestsellers report's really popular because, obviously you can see what's selling, but you can also see what's on order. And if you haven't got those books on order, you can actually place them directly into your shopping cart from here as well. That's helpful. It might be something that you've missed or somebody has missed, a particular item that perhaps when you were looking at your movers and going through your sales, you second guessed yourself and didn't order. But now that you've gone in and looked at the bestsellers, you've decided that you do need to order some more. It's just as easy as putting in a number and pressing order down the bottom. Our customers list, obviously that's important to a lot of businesses. There's an inbuilt loyalty system with Circle. You don't have to use it. We use it in my store and it's absolutely fantastic. You set the percentage that you want people to earn points on, and it goes to their further purchases. It's instant. It pretty much, if a person comes in the morning, they can redeem those, an hour later they can redeem that if they wanted to. It also incorporates with your website if you so choose to. That enables your regular customers who perhaps for whatever reason, a pandemic, can't get into your store, they can still use their loyalty on your website to purchase things. So this was a really big thing for us during the lockdowns that we went through in Melbourne. So I'm a really big fan of the loyalty system, and it certainly works really, really well to get that repeat custom in your store. I'm just going to point out here the agencies, distributors. It's nothing fancy that booksellers don't know, but I will point out that this is part of the shared data that we have amongst the Circle community. So there is literally thousands of distributors already with all of their details built into the Circle system. So you're not required to enter that data again. The only information that you would be required to put in there is obviously your store details, which would go into your site anyway, but your account number, because that will get attached to, I guess, either your purchase order if you're emailing that off to that supplier, or your pack stream information, which would go through that way. Very rarely do you find that a supplier is not in here. Obviously, all of your major ones are in there. There's probably, every now and then you might find a smaller one, but that's really easy to enter that detail in, and it's one of those things everybody among the community would benefit from that as well. So if you're entering in a particular small distributor, you put all the email addresses, phone numbers, all their contact details in there. It just means that someone else down the line doesn't have to spend time doing that. So it's a really, really good thing for the community. Obviously here we have our staff list. You can have staff who are obviously at the manager level, or you can have staff which may be your casuals. You can also limit what your staff see. So this might be good if you don't want your staff to perhaps see some of the reporting that is available. You don't want them to see, the financials of the business. So just something to keep in mind that you can do. Our returns features, look, it's pretty standard amongst booksellers to do returns. Everything is covered here within returns. Your standard returns that you would do normally, short supplies and damages can all be done through here. And what it will do is generate a report that you can send off to the supplier. The supplier will contact you and tell you what is eligible for return, and then you will simply process those books and ship them off. It keeps track of everything all the way through to completed, where you can see what happened, what books were returned, did we get credits for them, that sort of information. It's all tied in there. And it's something that you can always go back and find that information if you are perhaps querying something on a statement. You have the ability to go back and have a look at that. And it just makes returns a lot easier, being able to click through these screens here and basically go through and see what's outstanding, so nothing gets lost. POS, look, there's not a lot in there that I would probably point out during a demo. We can do things like non-tracked items as well. So non-tracked items are just generic codes that you can type into the POS. Really good for impulse buys, cards, stationery items. I pretty much advise anything that doesn't have a barcode. Probably the best way to go about it is to give it a generic non-tracked item code. It just speeds things up at the POS, and that's really what you don't want to be searching through a book looking for barcodes. Circle can generate barcodes, store specific barcodes, and if you do have access to a barcode printer, you can obviously apply them to the products. It just really depends on how those items would be probably reordered. So a non-tracked item, generally not ordered in the traditional sense, might be something more along the lines of a rep from the company perhaps comes out and just does an order for you and goes through your entire stand. Not something that you would perhaps be sending off a purchase order for, but certainly works and speeds up the POS system. You can obviously see cash up payments, today's transactions. You can see how you were tracking previous days. Really easy to do. That goes back into all of that reporting. One thing I will point out here, anytime you open your cash drawer, if you're not putting a transaction through, you have to give a reason. If you're the type of manager, much like myself, who probably doesn't spend that much time in the store, it's nice to know why your till has actually been opened. Circle's big on a paper trail pretty much for everything. So not only will you be able to see which staff member it was that opened it, they'll have to give a reason to why they did it. Now, most of the time it's probably going to be something completely harmless, like adding change to the till or something like that, but it is nice to be able to go back in and see a bit of a paper trail in case there was some sort of variance at the end of the day. One thing I will point out with the e-commerce side of things, so your public facing website, which is this here, I mentioned before that it is all customizable. So things with your website, your home page, you can obviously go into that, and it's very, very basic. It's a basic template you can use. It is quite literally drag and drop for things. So you can move things around if you need to. You can certainly add items in there, maybe a featured product. It's just a matter of putting the barcode in there and adding that. As soon as you've done that, you can simply save it. Everything that you do in Circle is real time. There's no delays with anything, which is fantastic because that's not what you want. You essentially want to be able to add the Very Hungry Caterpillar in here and not have to worry about a delay or having to go and manage something else. Circle is a nice inventory management system that can certainly cut down on the workflow. It is very much you do something once and we don't have to go back and do it again. You know, the stores that get the most out of their websites are the ones that spend a lot of time changing things on there. They're constantly on their social media pointing back to their website, and that's definitely something that we encourage at Circle. You know, certainly want stores to get the most out of their website. The only other thing that I did want to point out during this was our point of sale. I mentioned before that it is quite literally point of sale. That's pretty much all it handles, but it does it really, really well. So this is just logged into every morning, and it just runs there connected to your receipt printer and your cash drawer. Quite literally scan like any other point of sale system. You can have integration with your FPOS terminal if necessary. You don't have to. Payment types are whatever payment types that you use in your store, all customizable, can be as complex or as simple as you want. The payment types are fluid as well, so it could be that you need to use a particular payment type for a few months and then you need to change it again. You can certainly go in there and do that. You can have payment types that are not visible in the POS. I'm a big fan of keeping the POS as simple as possible, but your back office where you handle invoicing and things like that, that may need to be a little bit more complex. And that's fine. You can always add things and remove them as you see fit. I think that pretty much covers everything that you would see sort of left to right there in the back office. The only other thing that I would like to point out is category management. So category management is quite literally where do the books live within your store and where are they displayed on your website. So this is a tree category system. It works really, really well. The idea being that you start from your primary categories and then you move down to your subcategories from there. If you're wanting a particular subcategory, like I have historical fiction here, it might grow in size and it deserves its own spot being a primary category. Very easy to do. It's quite literally saving it and it will now be a primary category and it will be listed there as a primary category. You can certainly have highlighted categories. Obviously new releases, staff picks, etc. They're always going to be your go-to ones to highlight things, but you know, seasonal as well. You might have books there for a Father's Day subcategory or a Mother's Day one or a Christmas, and you want those to be front and center on your website. Really easy to do, and like I said, everything pretty much happens instantly. You're not really required to do anything else. That pretty much covers everything that I think would be relevant to a manager perhaps looking at a system like this. Like I mentioned, it is a complete, all built-in one bookstore inventory management system. It does everything from start to finish. If there's any questions or anything you feel that I missed or something that you guys would like me to spend a little bit more time on, by all means, leave a comment down below or contact us. All of the links and everything that you need will be down below this video. You can also book us in for a one-on-one demo if that's something you want to do. Thanks for your time, guys.